Hi, I'm Jeff. This is Tropical Plants at 53 degrees north, and today we're going to have a look at the beautiful Dipladenia sanderi, and we are going to take one or two cuttings from it and see if we can spread it around the greenhouse. It's not the ideal time to take cuttings. It is November, but sometimes you've just got to have a go at these things, and very often it does work. So it's worth a go. And if you have a similar plant and you want to try and take some cuttings, then take a look at what we're going to do today, and you too will be able to do it. So follow me and let's have a look at what we're going to work with today. So this is the gorgeous Dipladenia sanderi. It's been in flower for a long time this year already. I only got it in March time and it's been in flower ever since. And it does seem to be gaining strength. We're in mid-November now. It doesn't seem to be showing any sign of losing this amount of blooms. There's still plenty of buds on it, you can see there. There's a couple there, there's several over there. So the first thing we need to look at is where we're going to take the cuttings from. Now it does send up these long, and it probably took about a month before it started doing this, but it sends up these long twining vine-like growths. And if you have a look along here, they get narrower and narrower, thinner and thinner, until you've got this kind of thing at the end, which is searching for something else to twine around. Now that I don't think would be any good for cuttings, because you've got, well, first of all, it's very, very thin, and you've got quite a long gap between each node. That's no good, and we've got several of those going off in all sorts of different directions. One over there, and there's another one over here, past the nepenthes, and up there. Way too thin, and way too much of a gap between each node, and the leaves are too small as well. We're going to need some leaves, otherwise it's going to dehydrate. So if we go back down to the main plant, what we can see down here is we have several separate shoots which are not twining, vining style shoots. Now this one has flowers on it, so that's no good. This one looks ideal. There's no flowers on it. It's about 10 inches long. That's a bit smaller, and I can probably get two cuttings from that. This one here does have a bud on it, a couple of buds. I could try with that one and pinch them out. I think I might give it a go. There's another one there with some flowers on it. I think I'll leave that one. So definitely this one, and I'll probably have a go at that one too. Now obviously it's going to thin out the bottom of this plant, which is a shame, but it's really the climbing aspect of it that I like, and the fact that it's going off around the greenhouse, and apparently it goes 2 to 3 meters, so I'm going to try and spread them around the greenhouse. I think that would look really cool. So let's have a look at taking a cutting here. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to go too far into the woody bit. It's got to be like a kind of semi-ripe. You can see the colour, how the colours change there. It's quite brown, then it's darker there. I think that'll probably be too hard for a cutting, and then it changes to green there. So if I take a cutting just there, I think that will do. And something else to point out, you can just see there where I've absolutely they're very delicate actually. If you just catch them and you cut it a little bit, this latex substance comes out. Apparently it is toxic and it is an irritant as well, so it's a good idea to wear gloves. I might just risk it. That's the kind of guy I am. So I'll take these cuttings and then I'll show you how I'm going to try and root them. Okay, so what I've prepared over here, I've got my trusty snippers, and I have used a bit of alcohol and just sprayed them to make sure that there's nothing on them and they're nice and sterile. And if I'm absolutely 100% honest, I've only done that because it's on camera and I know people will have a go at me if I don't. It's not something I generally bother with. I know I might infect all my plants, but like I say, you know, sometimes life's a risk, isn't it? As far as I know, nothing has any diseases, and I do it every so often, but you know, probably not as much as I should. I've got some just ordinary, this is Jack's multi-purpose compost, and I've got some vermiculite, which is quite good for not only retaining the moisture, but it does open up the mixture as well and mean that it's quite well drained. I did read that it would be good to put a little bit of sand in the mix as well, but I haven't got any sand, so again, in the spirit of let's give it a go and see what happens. I've got a couple of 8-10 centimetre pots. I've got this is actually from a propagator, and I can give them some bottom heat if I want to, because I've got a heated electric propagator, but I'm going to try without first and see what happens. I do have one of these lids that fits nicely over the top, and this has holes in the bottom of it. I'm just going to stick it in an ordinary gravel tray that doesn't have any holes in the bottom. Like I say, you know, the worst thing that can happen is that they don't strike and we don't have any baby plants to grow somewhere else. And then all you do is you try again and you do it, you know, you change it and see what happens. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix some of this vermiculite into the compost. I probably actually won't need as much as I've got here, so I might just take a little bit of it. I'm going to go about 50-50. There we go. Nice open mix, and take your pot. I'm not going to bother with any jet drainage in the bottom, and again, the reason for that is I'm hoping they're not going to be in too long anyway. As that's going to go in there, it should pass through the holes in there, and then into the gravel tray. If I can see that there's a problem with the drainage, then I'll respond accordingly and use some gravel in the bottom or underneath the pot just to raise it up a bit. That usually does the trick. So I'm going to try and get 2 cuttings in each one of these. So if I just fill this one up as well. Okay, so we're all ready, and all I need to do now is go and get the cuttings and we can plant. Okay, now we magically have the cuttings here. Now I don't know if you can see that, but right at the end there's like a blob of latex coming out, milky sap, and that ain't good for us. So what I'm going to try and do is just dip it in some water here. Now this water, I've not got it out of the water, but I normally use rainwater, but there's going to be all sorts of pathogens in there. So what I'm going to do is try and dip it in some, this is RO water, which has come straight from the tap. So that should be okay, nothing in there. I'm going to strip. Now I'm going to do 2 cuttings here. You can see it does tear very easily, and you do get this latex coming out all over the plant. So again, you know, you are recommended to wear gloves, but like I say, I'm going to take a risk, see what happens. I might live to regret that. So I'm taking I'm cutting it into half, and I'm little spider there, and I'm going to cut it just below a leaf node. So that's going to cause more latex to come out. I'm going to have quite a lot coming out here by the time I'm finished. And all I want to leave here is the top few leaves, because the more leaves you leave on it, the more dehydrated it gets in a short length of time. So we want to maintain some humidity around the plant. So what I'm going to do is strip these leaves. Fortunately, the leaves don't seem to be bleeding, he says. No, there's a little bit coming out of that one there. Right. I think I'm going to leave those. Again, it's trial and error. I've never done this before with this particular plant, so let's give it a go. The worst that can happen is it doesn't work. I'm going to dip that straight into the pot and see if it'll seal up where it's leaking. And I'm going to do exactly the same with the bottom half, or the top half in that case. We need to make sure we remember which way is which. I think I've forgotten already. Well, if I cut below a leaf node before, and that must mean I've got another little shoot coming there, so that must be the top, that must be the bottom. So I'm going to cut that top off there. I'm just going to leave 2 leaves on this one while it's a smaller cutting. And then I'm going to pop that in the water as well and let that do its thing. See if it seals up the wounds. And same with, gosh, look at all that coming out of the edge there. I don't know if you can see it. Look at that. Start a rubber factory. So, right, okay, so let's cut some of these bottom leaves off. I'm going to cut it in half because I'm hoping this is going to make 2 just below a leaf node. Same with that. Now for this one, I'm going to have to cut the flowers off as well because obviously we don't want it to be coming into flower. We want it to produce some roots. And we'll just leave the very, very top few leaves on. That one. Pop it in the water. That's the lot. Okay. And while they're doing whatever they're doing in the water, I'll take a pen. What have we got there? 1, 2, 3. I think I'm missing a cutting. I'm not sure where it's gone. Not sure what happened there. Seem to have missed one, lost one. So anyway, let's make a cutting, a hole, sorry, in the side of the pot, and another one on the other side. Why at the side and not in the middle? I think it just gives it a little bit more stability. Anybody who's into orchids will know that if you've got an orchid with no roots, if you go and kind of wire it down or stake it when the plant isn't moving, it seems to be far more likely to produce good roots than if it's wobbling about for some reason. Okay, so whether it's actually stopped, I think it has. I think it has stopped the bleeding. So I'm also going to use, this is just organic rooting powder. I'm not sure whether organic's any better than non-organic, inorganic, but we'll give it a go. That's what we've got. So basically just dip the end. Now I've already cut that off right below a leaf node. That usually tends to be where most of the hormones are. You can try it without. It might work without. Plenty of plants do root without using the rooting powder. I'll have to make that a little bit deeper. There we go. And another one. That's one. I'd love to know where the other one's gone. I think it must have jumped off the table. in the rooting powder. I think I forgot to dip my second one in the rooting powder, but it'll be interesting to see whether it takes with or without. In my experience, it doesn't tend to matter that much. If it's going to root, it's going to root. I am perplexed where the other half's gone. I guess it'll all become clear when I watch the video back. So, right, so that's it. All there is to it. So let's get rid of these. I'll probably wake up tomorrow morning with a massive rash all over my fingers. So, what we need to do, I'm going to put that into there, and that into there. Maybe too many leaves on that one. I'm a little bit worried about that one. We're going to give it to water. If I can reach it without my microphone coming off, and I'm going to stick a label in it. Put the lid on, and that will be that. So make sure you date it. You always think you're going to remember, and you never do. So that's it, Dipladenia, 16th of November, with 3 cuttings there, one that's gone AWOL. No doubt it'll turn up at some point, in which case I'll stick it in there. I'm going to label it, put a date on it, lid on top, and I'm going to put it up somewhere out the sun, but somewhere warm, and hopefully this little setup will keep the humidity in, and we'll have to do a follow-up video and see if it works. Okay, so that's it. That's how to take cuttings of Dipladenia sanderi. If you've taken some cuttings of this plant before and you've done something differently that I haven't done, or I did something differently to you, then the question of the day will be, can you tell me what it is? And stick it in the comments below. I'd love to learn from you, just as much as maybe, hopefully, you're learning from me. So if you think it was worth a like, well, I think what's definitely worth a like is having the camera falling on my head and seeing that happen. I think I'll have a little bruise on the back of my head. That's what comes from using one of these mics attached to the camera and then turning round and the whole thing falls on me. Well, what can I say? I'm a cheapskate. So if you did enjoy it, then click subscribe, click like, put a comment in the comments below, and I'd love to hear from you. Final thing to mention, if there's anything that you think you'd like to see, or anything you'd like me to cover, then please, again, stick it in the comments. The more I can hear from people, the better, because it does feel then that I'm not recording video to, just the ether, and there is somebody actually out there, which always makes a difference. So hopefully I will see you on the next one. Bye.